It's interesting also to look at how the professionals are being trained, right? And like you're saying, who has certifications and not. And if they don't, then why? Why aren't they talking about it in university? Why aren't they talking about it in high school or even teaching children what autism is so they can look out for it in their peers? So, do you think that there is some kind of stigma about autism or mental health in general? Moji, maybe do you want to take this
Yeah,
one?
yeah, I don't think there's a stigma about mental health here, but I do think that. I mentioned earlier that I had to set up my own program here, and in doing so, I had some psychology students from the universities here, and for a lot of them, this was their first exposure to a child with autism.
Hmm.
And it was not only their first exposure, it was also their first exposure to the therapy we were doing. And and so I think, I I haven't studied at the universities here, so I don't know. I don't know what the curriculum entails. I certainly can speak from experience in my short time in Oslo that when I was working with a professor there with my son, that we had two university. He was the one that actually told me that I should always try to look for university students to keep the costs down, because at the time we were funding all this privately. And so he recruited some of the students in his courses to work with my son. And what was interesting was is that for a lot of them also, this was their first time being around a child with autism, but also it gave them clarity of what they wanted to do and what they did not want to do. And I think that it is important that at some point in time during the educational process, during the university education process, that the students are made to do some kind of internship or some kind of exposure to children from different kind of neuro psychological backgrounds to kind of give an idea and an awareness of what's going on in society and what is out there. Because I think that if you don't, if you know, it, I think that it's imperative that people are educated about it, and I think that that's one of the best places to be able to do that is at this level, and also in terms of what kind of treatment opportunities are out there. I remember that when my son was diagnosed here, I was fortunate because I kind of knew that it was autism. I had I had unfortunately read a book in my book club, and so I had kind of noted some behaviors from this book that I had seen in my son. And I had a very good friend of mine who I went to university with in the US who was a pediatrician. And when I said to her that, look, I think that my son might be on the spectrum. Her husband is was a PhD, I forget, in pediatrics or something. And so they sent me a whole bunch of data and information about different treatment options that were available at the time for autism, for early intervention. And so it was based on that data that we were able to narrow down very quickly that ABA would be our best option. And we followed that. And so, I think that I'm not saying that the universities should necessarily educate all the that the students need to know every single therapy, but at least being aware of it and being able to understand the pros and the cons of each therapy and things would also maybe give a better would negate these issues that that Catherine experienced or Enesa experienced when your child has been diagnosed and basically that you're told that, oh, okay, well, there's really nothing you can do. When in fact, there are things that you can there are sorry, can you listen to me? There are things that you can do to support the child very early on. And I think that a lot of the things that my son is able to do now is because of those very crucial interventions that happened when he was young. Because the fact that he's able to ride a bike, or he's able to do his horse riding, or he's able to dress himself, is all from that, because he had to learn everything. He had to learn how to imitate. He had to learn how to match. He had to learn how to, okay, if I have a shoe and I have just one shoe, I need to find the other pair. These are things that we take for granted that comes naturally to other kids. But these are things that you need to teach a child with autism, particularly if they're on the severe side. And it's not that they cannot do it. It's just that their ability to learn is very different. It's very much in small blocks. And if you put those small blocks together, you get a big block. And so it's kind of trying to bring awareness to the medical establishment that this is not impossible. There are success stories out there. There are techniques out there that you can equip parents with, that at least, even if they don't have access to the services, they can already start doing with their children at home. Yeah. And I think that may be lacking. I don't know, because of course I wasn't here when my son was diagnosed, but if I remember when he was diagnosed, if I had been living here, I probably would not have done anything, because the options were not given to me at the time when he was diagnosed here. I had to go and look for it. Mm-hmm. So
I completely agree. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Moji, but it's so important that as a parent, just having the comfort of options is so important. You have to empower us to help our kids. We can't do it. We don't know what we're supposed to do. Help us to figure out the best way to help our child. Give us options. I'm not saying solely ABA, but certainly evidence-based options that are out there and should be available to every family. And that's something that they do not do here. They don't give you options. It's just, this is the way it is. Your child, you're going to have to accept your child has autism, and everyone will be happy. And that's, not true. Yes, we have to accept our child has autism, but there are ways to help them. And are ways to help us as parents and empower us as parents.
I would like also to just share a story on this matter, because from this first child care center, when we went there, my son was there from his 3rd to his 4th year. And when I asked them about toilet training, they told me, well, he's autistic. Maybe he will pick it up from the other kids that are already doing it. But, even if he's never toilet trained, the costs of diapers are paid by the government. So that makes it okay,
Oh,
and then, gosh. Yeah, exactly. I mean, now when I look back on that, yeah, oh my God. But then we went to this ABA place, and Canon had a fantastic therapist there. And she told me after maybe a couple of months that he was in this place, you could toilet train him. And I told her, he's not ready. It's too difficult. He doesn't understand. And she told me, well, I think he can. And if you are on board, we can start the training. And that was just amazing, because as parents, you get into this routine and you think this is all there is. And you sometimes really need this therapist on your side to just tell you, your child can do this. It's just, we need to put in a little bit more effort, but I believe we can do this. And she was right. I mean, he did it and quite quickly also.
Exactly.
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.